Before we jump into it, my friends over at G Fuel ended up bumping up code Espresso to 30% off. So if you guys want to check out any new tubs, get a restock, try out something for the first time, whatever it may be, links in the description below if you want to check it out further. Today, I want to talk about something near and dear to me in a gaming sense, and it's no surprise. You guys know that I love Warzone. It's the majority of the gameplay you probably see here on the channel and videos. But today I want to talk about the state of the game that we're in. We talked a little bit about this at the integration point back in December with Cold War and Warzone, but I want to talk more so on a more broader sense here with this, because right now I think that Warzone's biggest hurdle is Warzone itself. The current issues, the underlying problems, and the trajectory that we have right now make Warzone itself its own worst enemy in a sense. So as we go along, I just want to give you my viewpoint here on this. Feel free to chime in and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But as well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure that subscribe button. We're on that road to 400,000 subscribers, and we'll keep you today with all things Warzone, Cold War, and anything COD related as we round into another content update here as of next week, and then Season 2 a couple of weeks to follow. But that said, let's jump into it. So, barring any tangents that we may end up on during the regular discussion here, I want to cover the main points of cheating, glitches, and bugs that keep returning, communication, or I guess lack thereof of it, and the lack of content. Hopefully I do remember, but I should have some timestamps in the description below to let you use the chapters feature on the scroll bar of the video. But anyways, let's talk about it. Firstly, cheaters. Now, this is something we've talked about, and there's just an overabundance at this point. It's definitely gotten out of hand between skill or performance-based matchmaking, which in and of itself is something of a topic of a discussion we've beaten to death here on the channel. I can almost guarantee that I'll be running into at least one of these cheaters per day when I play, but most likely it's going to be more than just one a play session. Now, we've talked about it before, so I don't want to beat the dead horse too much, but Warzone is the only game that we see right now that has such an audience and no preventative measures. Sure, we've had major ban waves, but that stuff's reactionary. It happens after the fact. It doesn't stop the problem, it just reacts to it. Every major game right now has an anti-cheat, especially whenever you look at the BR or competitive scene. Valorant has Vanguard, Apex has their own system, as does Epic and Fortnite. I mean, hell, even Fall Guys has an anti-cheat before Warzone. So it's kind of amazing to me that we've made it through the first 10 months of Warzone. We've seen this explosive growth and reported absurd amount of revenues on the business end, but we haven't seen anything amount to any sort of stoppage for cheating. Now, I do have some hope and optimism because, again, the other day when we discussed this, we did mention that the CDL was looking to incorporate more Warzone into the league. So that means that competitive integrity actually has to be in place for it to be viable. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of sponsors probably pulling their money, and for corporate Activision, that's where it starts to hurt. You lose that revenues. So unless they just plan on having matches in private servers and lobbies with pros, there needs to be something done for some form of integrity measures, right? So hopefully that means something, some anti-cheat here with that, but right now we just don't know. It was mentioned that we'll see stuff with competitive Warzone start to come into play before Season 2 and the end of Season 1, so maybe it's just right over the horizon, but dude, cheaters right now are at an all-time high, and it's wild. Another thing that I think is really hurting the longevity here of Warzone is the fact that there are still so many glitches and bugs that keep returning. Now, I understand that game development is like a house of cards. It's something that you put one thing in, like a major title update, and then you'll see these unforeseen bugs once it's introduced to the masses in the terms of millions of players that you won't be able to find in-house whenever you're actually making the game. I understand that entirely, but when you get things like the stim glitch, the invisibility glitch that have returned now for the invisibility glitch the second time, and then the stim glitch like 6 or 7 times at this point, that's something that really hurts the longevity and the health of the game, I think. To me, my solution, especially for the stim glitch, just vault the stims even if temporarily. I mean, aside from the fact that truthfully, whenever I look at it and I look at a lot of people that I've seen, yes, it's anecdotal, I don't think the stim is all that much worthwhile. I think there's, of course, things like stuns, heartbeat sensors, even gas grenades that are way more effective and way more helpful late game, even to the point where I'd never actually equip a stim on any of my loadouts, even for the players that it would affect if that is something that ends up getting vaulted. We've seen this done with things like contracts and specific vehicles when there have been game-breaking bugs and glitches that would make more impact on players overall than just, say, the player base that uses stims. So I don't understand why this is something that isn't taken out whenever this is first reported, when we see something pop up like this, until a fix is actually made. I just feel like this is another problem that compounds on top of others that just gets overlooked to the point where it actually breaks the game. You could have people absolutely having their best game ever, or let's just say one of those players is getting one of their first wins ever, and instead they can't find anybody because, well, he's out in the distance in the gas, stim glitching, and you'll never find him. Kind of tying in with that is another topic that I want to hit on is the communication. There is absolutely no word officially on bugs or issues that players are aware of as of lately. Now, throughout the years that I've done YouTube, I've made friends throughout the studios. I have connections with the communications teams and everything like that. So if I see a problem, I'll report it. If I get something reported to me that is pretty game breaking and big, I'll report it. And things go about their merry way. I have no idea if it actually impacts any changes that are made, but I see a ton of things on the regular basis where people are like, hey, can you tell these guys that this is broken? Meanwhile, I know that they're aware of it, but wouldn't it just be so much nicer and so much easier if they actually communicated that they were aware of this to the huge player base at large instead of just leaving them in the dark? That's the one thing with Warzone in particular, is that in terms of actual communication for Warzone, I could probably count on both hands the amount of times that since it's launched, we've seen specific updates communicated for just Warzone here in that regard. And oppositely, there's also nothing that really engages with players and keeps them hyped about stuff that's upcoming. There's no sort of get ready for type of promotion. It just is radio silence for weeks on end, sometimes even months on end. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about here is the lack of content. While I am appreciative of the updates that we've seen over the course of the last 10 months or so here and the introductions that we've seen into Warzone, we haven't seen anything in terms of large-scale changes for Warzone in the entire year that we've had it so far. And in a climate for gaming, and specifically a genre where the attention span is not the longest, to put it lightly, we aren't dealing with a generational game like a World of Warcraft or something where you can come back after years and still be intrigued as if you were on day one. To me, we need to have something to keep players coming back, or the prospect even of something coming back. I mean, the current rumor is, of course, that we will see a new map for year 2, and I am all for that. I am all for exploring an entire new world. I know that it took me a couple of weeks, if not a month or two here, to entirely master and know every single point on Verdansk that we have right now, and that's while playing substantial amounts every single day after the launch of it. So it is something that will be a longer introduction here at that point, and something that is absolutely worthwhile in terms of new content and checking it out. But my hopes are going forward that we can keep that attention on the game, keep it in the spotlight with constant refreshes and new content to make it worthwhile to keep playing. I'll be honest, I think perhaps the best example here for this in Call of Duty terms is COD Online while it was going on to an extent, but the most recent and up-to-date version here of this is COD Mobile. We see a new season for that every month or so, where it gives players what seems like, and again, I'm not so much in tune with COD Mobile as I'd like to be in terms of saying, hey, I'm an expert on this stuff. I by no means am, but from the outside looking in, it looks like we get a new map, new skins, new weapons and stuff comparable to what we see with a regular seasonal drop for Call of Duty almost every single month here. And that's something that in terms of content drops and distribution outpaces what we currently have, keeping it a little more interesting on a little bit more of a frequent basis. The big thing to me is that I think that Call of Duty right now in terms of Warzone is kind of hindering itself by not keeping up with other competitors per se in the BR genre even, but more so just the fact that they kind of let the game out, do its thing, and really haven't done a whole ton to guide it along and keep it growing on exponential levels. When you take these factors that we just talked about, the fact that there's still cheaters running rampant, there's a ton of bugs and glitches that go for months on end popping back up here and there, with the fact that there's really not a whole ton in terms of new content to experience for yourself, you start to lose players drastically. And so therefore, I think that right now, the worst enemy that Warzone has is potentially itself. So fingers crossed with year 2, we see some of the stuff maybe start to take precedent in terms of priority for what we see in involvement, with more so consistent support and additional content coming throughout the year. Fingers crossed. I mean, I'm definitely hopeful that we see some cool things here for year 2 of Warzone, but only time will tell. We're still a little bit away from that. So that's where we're going to wrap it up. Just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about where I'm at with Warzone here with this right now and what I hope to see in the near future, because like I said in the intro, man, Warzone is something that I really enjoy. I think that this has probably been my favorite BR, having played all of the major BRs for years now. This is probably one of my favorites that we've seen, and I'd still like to see it do well. It just needs to get out of its own way, I think. But that's where we're going to wrap it up. So I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of this year? What do you think of potentially year 2 for Warzone? Where do you think we need to go with it? What measures need to be taken in the meantime? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so from a single thing. We're getting all things Warzone, Cold War, and anything COD related. So if you're interested in joining the community, I'd love to have you. If you also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Probably live on both those. If you guys want to check up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But all that said out of the way, thank you guys all so much for watching. Mine is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.